Girlfriend's daughter claimed I touched her now that it was proven false. Girlfriend wants to pretend nothing happened. So this is probably going to be long, but I need to get it all out. I'm still processing everything that happened, and honestly, I don't even know where to start. Maybe with the day my life imploded. Yeah, that sounds about right. I was dating Rachel for about 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a cookout, and things just clicked. She had a daughter from a previous relationship, Lily, who was 13 when we started dating. The ex wasn't in the picture much. He'd show up every few months, miss scheduled visits, forget birthdays, the usual deadbeat stuff. Rachel worked as a dental hygienist and picked up weekend shifts whenever she could to make ends meet. I'm an electrician, been doing it for about 8 years now. I make decent money, nothing crazy, but enough to be comfortable. When Rachel and I got serious, I started spending more time at her place. Lily seemed fine with me at first. Quiet kid, always on her phone or watching videos in her room. We'd have dinner together sometimes, and I'd help her with math homework when she asked. Nothing weird, just normal stuff. About 6 months ago, Rachel asked if I wanted to move in. Her lease was up, and she found a bigger place that would work better for all of us. I thought about it for maybe a week before saying yes. Things were good between us, and I figured it was the natural next step. Plus, helping with rent would make things easier for her, and I wanted to be there for both of them. The first few months living together were pretty smooth. I'd get home from work, Rachel would make dinner, or I'd pick something up, and we'd all eat together. Lily would disappear into her room after, and Rachel and I would watch TV or just hang out. Weekends were for errands, maybe a movie. Nothing fancy. It felt like we were building something real, like an actual family. Then one night in March, everything fell apart. I got home around 6:30. I'd been working on a commercial job across town, and the traffic was brutal. I walked in expecting to smell dinner or hear the TV going, but the apartment was dead quiet. Rachel's car was in the lot, so I knew she was home. I figured maybe they were napping or something. I dropped my tools by the door and headed to the kitchen to grab some water. That's when I heard it. Crying. Not just regular crying, but the kind that sounds like someone's having a breakdown. I followed the sound to the living room and found Rachel on the couch, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. Lily was sitting next to her, and when I walked in, she looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Not sad, not scared, something else. Something cold. I asked Rachel what was wrong, and she just kept crying. I tried again, getting more worried by the second. Finally, Lily spoke up. She said, "Mom knows what you did." I had no idea what she was talking about. I looked at Rachel, then back at Lily, completely lost. I asked what she meant, and that's when Rachel lifted her head. Her eyes were red and swollen, and when she looked at me, there was so much anger there, so much hurt. She asked me, "How could you do this to her? How could you do this to us?" I was standing there trying to figure out what the hell was happening. I kept asking what she was talking about, but Rachel wouldn't answer. She just kept crying and asking how I could betray her trust like this. Lily sat there quiet, watching me. Then Rachel finally said it. She said Lily told her that 2 weeks ago, when Rachel was working a late shift, I came into Lily's room and touched her, inappropriately, that I'd put my hand under her shirt and tried to kiss her. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. The words didn't even make sense at first. I just stood there staring at both of them, waiting for someone to say it was a joke or a misunderstanding. But nobody did. I told Rachel it wasn't true. I said I would never do something like that Lily was lying. But the second those words left my mouth, Rachel lost it. She started screaming at me, calling me disgusting, saying she should have known better than to let a man around her daughter. She told me to get out. Just like that. Get out. I tried to defend myself, tried to explain that I hadn't done anything, but she wouldn't listen. She was screaming so loud I thought the neighbors would call the cops. Lily just sat there, not saying a word, watching the whole thing unfold. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't know what else to do. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for probably 20 minutes, just trying to process what had happened. My hands were shaking. My brain couldn't catch up. One minute I was coming home to what I thought was my family, and the next I was being accused of something I didn't do. I ended up driving to my buddy Jason's place. He's been my best friend since high school, and I knew he'd let me crash there. When I showed up at his door, he took one look at my face and knew something was seriously wrong. I told him everything, and he just sat there listening, not interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Man, that's messed up. You need a lawyer." I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out if I'd done something that could have been misinterpreted. But there was nothing. I barely even talked to Lily most days. We were polite to each other, sure, but we weren't close. I'd never been alone with her for more than a few minutes. The idea that she would accuse me of something like this made no sense. The next morning, I called in sick to work and started looking for lawyers. I didn't even know what kind of lawyer I needed, but Jason helped me figure it out. We found a guy who specialized in false accusations, and I set up a meeting for that afternoon. The lawyer's name was Bill. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with gray hair and this calm way of talking that made me feel a little less panicked. I told him everything that happened, and he listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and asked if I had any proof of my innocence. I didn't. I mean, how do you prove you didn't do something? I wasn't even home most evenings when Rachel worked late. I'd usually grab food with Jason or stay late at job sites to finish up, but I didn't have receipts or anything concrete to show where I was that specific night Lily claimed it happened. Bill told me to start documenting everything. Every conversation, every text message, every interaction with Rachel or Lily. He said if this went to the police, I'd need all the evidence I could get. He also told me not to contact Rachel or Lily directly. Let everything go through him. That same day, Rachel texted me. She said Lily wanted to file a police report, but Rachel wasn't sure if that was the right move. She said she needed time to think. Part of me wanted to call her and try to explain again, but Bill's words kept playing in my head. Don't contact them. So I didn't. 2 days later, Rachel showed up at Jason's place. I was sitting on his couch when I heard the knock, and when I opened the door, she was standing there with her arms crossed. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept either. She asked if we could talk, and I let her in. Jason disappeared into his room to give us privacy. Rachel sat down on the edge of the couch and didn't say anything for a minute. Finally, she asked me to be honest with her. She said if I admitted what I did and got help, maybe we could work through it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her again that I didn't do anything. I said Lily was lying, and I didn't know why, but she was. Rachel's face hardened, and she stood up. She said she wanted to believe me, but Lily had no reason to lie. She said I was choosing to destroy our relationship instead of taking responsibility. Then she left. Just walked out without another word. I felt like I was losing my mind. How was I supposed to prove something didn't happen? How was I supposed to make anyone believe me when a 13-year-old girl was saying the opposite? A week went by. Rachel stopped texting. I stayed at Jason's place and went to work every day, but I felt like a zombie. I couldn't focus. I kept waiting for the cops to show up and arrest me. Every time I saw a police car, my heart would start racing. Work became this weird escape where I could just focus on running wire and installing fixtures without thinking about the mess my personal life had become. But even there, I felt off. My coworkers noticed. One of the older guys, Frank, pulled me aside during lunch and asked if everything was okay at home. I didn't tell him the full story, just said I was going through some stuff with my girlfriend. He nodded like he understood and said relationships were hard. If only he knew. The nights were the worst. Jason would try to keep me distracted with video games or movies, but my mind always wandered back to the same questions. Why would Lily do this? What did I do to make her hate me that much? Was I too strict? Too distant? Did I say something that set her off? I replayed every interaction I'd had with her over the past few months. The time I told her to turn down her music because Rachel had a headache. The time I ate the last of the ice cream she'd been saving. The time I suggested she spend less time on her phone during dinner. Were any of those things bad enough to make her want to destroy my life? None of it made sense. Jason's girlfriend, Amy, came over a few times. She'd heard bits and pieces from Jason, and one night she sat down with me and said she believed me. She said she'd known girls in high school who made up stories for attention or to manipulate their parents. She said some kids just didn't think about the consequences. It helped hearing that from someone who wasn't just trying to be supportive. Amy didn't know me that well, but she looked at the situation objectively and came to the conclusion that I was telling the truth. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot. Bill called me a few times that week to check in. He wanted to make sure I wasn't having any contact with Rachel or Lily, and he reminded me to keep documenting everything. He also said that if Rachel did decide to file a police report, I should call him immediately. He'd walk me through the process and make sure I didn't say anything that could be used against me. The thought of going through a police investigation made me sick. I kept imagining what it would be like to sit in an interrogation room, to have detectives asking me questions, to have my name dragged through the mud. Even if I was eventually cleared, the damage would already be done. People would always wonder if there was some truth to the accusation. That's the thing about these kinds of accusations. They stick. Even when they're proven false, there's always that little voice in the back of people's minds asking what if. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. By the end of the week, I was exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally. I felt drained in a way I'd never experienced before. It was like every ounce of energy I had was going toward just getting through each day without completely falling apart. Then, on a random Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Rachel. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. She sounded different, quieter. She said, "We need to talk. Can you come over?" I told her I'd be there in 20 minutes. I didn't know what to expect, but I figured it couldn't get much worse. When I got to the apartment, Rachel answered the door and let me in without saying anything. Lily wasn't there. Rachel said she was at a friend's house. We sat down at the kitchen table, and Rachel just stared at her hands for a while. Finally, she said, "I talked to Lily's friend Amber today. She told me something." I didn't say anything. I just waited. Rachel said that Amber mentioned Lily had been bragging at school about getting me kicked out. She'd told Amber and some other girls that she made up the story because she didn't want me living there. She said I was taking up too much of Rachel's time and attention, and she wanted things to go back to how they were before. Rachel started crying again, but this time it was different. She kept saying she was sorry, that she should have listened to me, that she didn't know what to do. I sat there feeling absolutely nothing. No relief, no anger, just this weird empty feeling. She asked if I could forgive her, if we could try to move past this. She said she'd talk to Lily and make her apologize. She said she'd do whatever it took to fix things. I looked at her and said, "You believed her over me. You threw me out without even giving me a chance to defend myself. You were ready to let me go to jail." Rachel tried to explain that she was just protecting her daughter, that any mother would have done the same thing. But I wasn't buying it. Protecting her daughter would have been finding out the truth, not just assuming I was guilty. She kept saying she was sorry, that she panicked, that when your child tells you something like that, your instinct is to believe them. I got that. I really did. But here's the thing. We'd been together for 2 years. She knew me. She knew what kind of person I was. And the second Lily said something, all of that went out the window. I asked her why she didn't at least question Lily's story, why she didn't ask for details or try to figure out if it actually made sense. She just sat there with tears streaming down her face, saying she didn't know. She said she was so shocked and scared that she couldn't think straight, but I'd had a week to think about it, a week to replay that conversation in my head. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Rachel had made her choice the second Lily opened her mouth. She chose her daughter over me, which I understand. But she also chose to believe the worst about me without any evidence, without any hesitation. That's what hurt the most. Not the accusation itself, but the fact that someone I loved, someone I thought loved me, was so quick to throw me away. I asked Rachel what she expected me to do now. Did she think I'd just come back and act like nothing happened? Did she think we could go back to eating dinner together and watching TV like a happy family? She said she didn't know. She said she just wanted to fix things, to make it right somehow. But there was no fixing this. The damage was done. I told her I needed time to think, and I left. I went back to Jason's place and just sat there in the dark for hours. Jason came home from work and asked what happened, and I filled him in. He said, "You're not going back to her, are you?" I didn't answer because I honestly didn't know. Part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to believe that we could work through this, that Rachel's apology was genuine, that things could go back to normal. But the other part of me, the part that had spent the last week terrified and alone, knew that normal was gone. We'd never get it back. Over the next few days, Rachel kept calling and texting. She said Lily admitted everything. She said Lily felt terrible and wanted to apologize to me in person. She said the three of us could sit down and talk it through. Maybe go to family counseling or something. Family counseling. Like sitting in a room with a stranger and talking about our feelings was going to undo what happened. Like it would make me forget that I'd spent a week thinking my life was over. I ignored most of the messages. I was still trying to wrap my head around the fact that a kid I'd been living with, a kid I'd helped with homework and bought pizza for, had tried to destroy my life because she was jealous. Jealous. That's what it came down to. Lily didn't like sharing her mom's attention, so she decided to get rid of me. And she chose the most nuclear option possible. Not just saying she didn't like me or asking Rachel to break up with me. She accused me of something so heinous that there'd be no coming back from it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not just at Lily, but at Rachel too. Because even after finding out the truth, Rachel was acting like this was just a bump in the road, like we could smooth things over and move on. But I couldn't move on. Not from this. Then Rachel's mom called me. I'd met her a few times, and she'd always been nice to me. She said she heard what happened and wanted to talk. I figured why not. So I agreed to meet her for coffee. She showed up looking uncomfortable, like she didn't really want to be there but felt like she had to. She said she'd talked to Rachel and Lily, and she was sorry for what happened. But then she said something that made my blood boil. She said, "You have to understand, Lily's just a kid. She made a mistake. Kids do stupid things sometimes. You can't hold this against her forever." I told her that wasn't just a stupid mistake. That was a life-ruining accusation. I said if Rachel hadn't talked to Amber's mom, I could have ended up on a registry or in jail. I could have lost my job, my reputation, everything. And she wanted me to just brush it off because Lily's a kid? Rachel's mom said I was being too harsh, that I needed to think about what was best for Rachel and Lily. She said Rachel loved me, and Lily just needed time to adjust. She said I should give them another chance. I thanked her for the coffee and left. I didn't have the energy to argue. That night, I sat down and really thought about everything. About the relationship, about the accusation, about what moving forward would look like. And I realized something. Even if I forgave Rachel, even if Lily apologized, I'd never feel safe around her again. Every time Lily got upset or didn't get her way, I'd wonder if she'd pull something like this again. Every argument with Rachel would have this shadow hanging over it. I couldn't live like that. I wouldn't. So I texted Rachel and told her it was over. I said I couldn't be with someone who didn't trust me, and I couldn't be around a kid who'd tried to ruin my life. I said I'd come by when Lily wasn't there to grab the rest of my stuff, and that was it. Rachel called me immediately. She was crying and begging me to reconsider. She said she'd do anything, that Lily would apologize, that we could make it work. I told her no. I said I was done and I hung up. Jason said I did the right thing. Bill, my lawyer, said the same. My brother called me a few days later after hearing what happened, and even he said I dodged a bullet. But Rachel wouldn't let it go. She kept texting, kept calling, kept showing up at places she knew I'd be. She'd cry and say she made a mistake, that she loved me, that we could get past this. She even offered to send Lily to live with her dad for a while so we could work on things. I ignored her. I blocked her number, blocked her on social media, told Jason not to let her in if she showed up at his place. I was done. Completely done. A month later, I found my own apartment. It was smaller than the place I'd shared with Rachel, but it was mine. I moved in with just the basics, didn't even bother unpacking most of my boxes. I went to work, came home, and kept to myself. I didn't date, didn't go out much. I just needed time to process everything. The apartment was in a different part of town, somewhere Rachel wouldn't think to look for me. I didn't tell her where I was moving, didn't give her my new address. As far as I was concerned, that chapter of my life was closed. Jason helped me move my stuff. It didn't take long since I didn't have much. A bed, a couch, my TV, some clothes. That was about it. Most of the furniture at Rachel's place had been hers anyway, so I was starting from scratch. Jason ordered pizza, and we sat on my new couch eating and watching some action movie I wasn't really paying attention to. He didn't push me to talk about Rachel or Lily. He just let me exist without any pressure, and I appreciated that more than he probably knew. After he left, I sat in the quiet apartment and realized this was my life now. Just me. No girlfriend, no almost stepdaughter, no family dinners or weekend plans. Just silence and space to figure out who I was without all of that. It should have felt freeing, but mostly it just felt empty. The first few weeks in the new place were rough. I'd wake up in the morning and forget where I was for a second. I'd reach over expecting to feel Rachel next to me, then remember she wasn't there. Wouldn't be there. Would never be there again. Work kept me busy during the day, but the nights dragged. I'd come home to an empty apartment and just sit there staring at the TV without really watching anything. I ordered takeout most nights because I couldn't be bothered to cook for one person. Jason checked in on me a few times a week. He'd call or stop by with food, making sure I was still functioning. I told him I was fine, even though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. Amy came by once with groceries and a casserole she'd made. She said I looked like I'd lost weight and needed to eat more. I thanked her and put the casserole in the fridge, where it sat for 3 days before I finally heated some up. My mom called to check in. I'd told her a vague version of what happened, leaving out most of the details. She said breakups were hard, but I'd get through it. She didn't know about the accusation. I didn't tell her. What was the point? It was over now. One night, I was scrolling through my phone and came across old photos of me and Rachel. Us at a concert. Us at the beach. Us with Lily at some restaurant celebrating her birthday. We looked happy. We were happy. Or at least I thought we were. I deleted every single photo, every text thread, every reminder that we'd ever been together. It felt good in the moment, like I was taking control of something. But afterward, I just felt hollow. I started going to the gym more, trying to channel all the anger and frustration into something productive. I'd lift weights until my arms shook, run on the treadmill until I couldn't breathe. It helped. Not a lot, but enough to keep me from sitting around feeling sorry for myself. Work picked up around that time, which was good. I threw myself into it, taking on extra hours, volunteering for projects nobody else wanted, anything to keep my mind occupied. My supervisor noticed and asked if I was okay. I told him I was just trying to save up some money. He nodded and said if I ever needed to talk, his door was open. I appreciated the offer, but I wasn't about to spill my guts to my boss. Then about 2 months after the breakup, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Lily. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know how bad things would get, and she felt terrible about what she did. She said she missed me and wished I'd come back. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond and tell her exactly how much damage she'd caused, but I didn't. I just deleted it and blocked the number. A few weeks ago, Rachel showed up at my apartment. I have no idea how she found out where I lived, but there she was, standing in the hallway with flowers and this desperate look on her face. She said she'd been going to counseling with Lily. She said Lily understood what she did was wrong and had been working on herself. She said they both wanted me back in their lives. She said we could start slow, maybe just coffee or dinner, and see how it goes. I looked at her and said, "You really think flowers and an apology are going to fix this?" She started crying again, saying she knew it wasn't enough, but she didn't know what else to do. She said she loved me, that she'd made a terrible mistake, and she just wanted a chance to make it right. I told her there was nothing to make right. I said what happened couldn't be undone, and I wasn't interested in trying to rebuild something that was broken from the start. I told her to leave and not come back. She stood there for a minute, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, she finally turned and walked away. I haven't heard from her since. People keep asking me if I made the right choice. My mom thinks I should have given Rachel another chance. A couple of guys at work said the same thing. They keep saying everyone makes mistakes, that relationships take work, that I'm throwing away 2 years over one bad incident. But they don't get it. It wasn't one bad incident. It was Rachel choosing to believe the worst about me without even trying to hear my side. It was Lily thinking she could lie about something that serious just because she was jealous. It was everyone around me acting like I should just forgive and forget because that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not built like that. When someone shows you who they are, you believe them. Rachel showed me she didn't trust me. Lily showed me she was willing to destroy my life to get what she wanted. And everyone else showed me they'd rather I be miserable than make waves. So yeah, I'm done. I'm not going back. I'm not giving second chances. I'm not pretending nothing happened just to make other people comfortable. Some people think that makes me cold or unforgiving. Maybe it does, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather be alone than be with someone I can't trust. Jason keeps telling me I'll meet someone else eventually. Someone who won't throw me under the bus the first time things get hard. I'm not in a rush, but I guess he's probably right. For now, I'm good. I've got my own place, my job, my sanity. I'm not looking over my shoulder wondering if someone's going to accuse me of something I didn't do. I'm not walking on eggshells trying to keep a 13-year-old happy so she doesn't blow up my life again. I'm just existing. And honestly, that's good enough for me right now. People keep saying time heals all wounds or whatever, but I don't think that's true. Some things don't heal. They just become part of who you are, and that's fine. I'm not the same person I was before all this happened, and I'm never going to be. Rachel sent me one last text a couple weeks ago. She said she understood why I couldn't forgive her, but she hoped one day I'd find peace. She said she'd always loved me and wished things had turned out differently. I didn't respond. Because here's the thing. I already found peace. It's in knowing I didn't compromise who I am, just to make someone else feel better. It's in knowing I walked away from a situation that would have destroyed me eventually. It's in knowing I chose myself. And if that makes me the bad guy in someone else's story, then so be it. I can live with that. I've been thinking a lot about trust lately, how it's supposed to be this foundation that relationships are built on. But what happens when that foundation cracks? Can you really rebuild it? Or are you just putting up walls and hoping they hold? I don't have the answers. All I know is that I couldn't stay in a relationship where I'd always wonder if Rachel would believe me the next time something went wrong. I couldn't live in a house with a kid who'd proven she was willing to lie about something that could have sent me to prison. Some people might call that holding a grudge. I call it self-preservation. Jason asked me the other day if I regretted the relationship, if I wished I'd never met Rachel, or moved in with her. And honestly, I don't know. The good times were good, really good. But the bad times were so catastrophically bad that they wiped out everything else. So maybe I don't regret it. Maybe it was just a lesson I needed to learn. That not everyone deserves your trust. That you can do everything right and still end up getting burned. That sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. I've started going to the gym more, picking up shifts when they're available, keeping myself busy so I don't have time to sit around and overthink everything. It helps. Not a lot, but enough. My apartment's starting to feel like home now. I've got a decent setup going. New couch, TV mounted on the wall, some plants that I'm somehow managing to keep alive. It's not much, but it's mine. Nobody can take it away from me. I bought a grill last month. Nothing fancy, just a basic charcoal one. I set it up on my tiny balcony and invited Jason and Amy over for burgers. It was the first time I'd had people over since moving in, and it felt good. Normal. Like maybe I was starting to rebuild something. We didn't talk about Rachel or Lily. We just ate and laughed and enjoyed the evening. Amy brought her famous potato salad, and Jason brought some craft sodas he'd been wanting to try. It was simple, but it was exactly what I needed. After they left, I sat on the balcony watching the sun go down. The air was warm, and I could hear kids playing in the parking lot below. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was the absence of that constant anger and bitterness that had been eating at me. It was progress. I ran into one of Rachel's friends at the grocery store last week. She gave me this look, like I was the one who did something wrong. She didn't say anything, just turned and walked the other way. I'm sure Rachel's been telling her side of the story, painting me as the guy who couldn't forgive a simple mistake. That's fine. Let her think what she wants. I know the truth, and that's all that matters. The truth is, I almost lost everything over a lie. If things had gone differently, if Lily's friend hadn't said something, if Rachel hadn't found out the truth, I'd be dealing with criminal charges right now. My life would be over. My career, my reputation, my freedom, all gone. People don't seem to grasp how serious that is. They're so focused on forgiveness and moving on that they forget I was this close to being destroyed. And for what? Because a 13-year-old girl was jealous and didn't think through the consequences of her actions. I've thought about what I'd say if I ever ran into Lily again. Part of me wants to tell her exactly how much damage she caused, how many sleepless nights I had, how I couldn't look at a police car without my heart racing, how I still sometimes wake up in a cold sweat thinking I'm about to be arrested. But another part of me doesn't want to give her that power. Doesn't want to let her see how much she hurt me. So if I ever do see her, I'll probably just keep walking. Pretend she doesn't exist. Because in my world, she doesn't anymore. The hardest part isn't the breakup or the accusation, or even the fact that people think I overreacted. The hardest part is realizing how close I came to losing everything. If Rachel hadn't talked to Amber's mom, if Lily's friend hadn't said anything, I'd be dealing with criminal charges right now. My life would be over. And nobody seems to understand that. They're all so focused on forgiveness and second chances that they're ignoring the fact that I almost ended up on a registry for something I didn't do. That's not something you just get over. I've thought about reaching out to Lily's friend Amber, maybe sending her a thank you card or something. Because if she hadn't told her mom, if her mom hadn't told Rachel, I don't know where I'd be right now. But I figured that might be weird, so I didn't. Still, I'm grateful. To her, to Jason for letting me crash at his place, to Bill for walking me through the legal side of things, to everyone who actually listened instead of just assuming I was guilty. It's a small list, but it's something. I've also been thinking about what I want moving forward, not just in relationships, but in life. And I realized I don't want to settle anymore. Not for a job that barely pays the bills, not for friends who don't have my back, and definitely not for a partner who doesn't trust me. I deserve better than that. We all do. I started looking at career advancement opportunities at work. There's a supervisor position opening up in a few months, and I'm thinking about applying. The pay would be better, and it'd be a step up from just running wire all day. My current supervisor's been encouraging me to go for it. I'm also thinking about taking some classes at the community college. Maybe get certified in solar panel installation or something. The industry's growing, and it'd be good to have more skills under my belt. Plus, it'd give me something to focus on besides the mess in my personal life. Jason's been trying to get me to go out more, hit up bars, meet new people, maybe try dating again. I'm not ready for that yet. The thought of having to explain my situation to someone new makes me tired. How do you even bring that up? Oh yeah, my last girlfriend's daughter accused me of something horrible, and it blew up my entire life. Want to grab dinner sometime? No thanks. I'll pass. Maybe eventually I'll be ready to put myself out there again. But right now, I'm good with just focusing on me, building my life back up, figuring out who I am without Rachel or Lily or any of that mess. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.